Tuesday mornings, we're joined in studio by Steve Millington. He's the chairman of the Twin Falls County Republican Party. He has a meeting tomorrow night that he should.
No,
Not tomorrow?
not tomorrow. It's a week from tomorrow. Thank you very much. But
Correct
it is
that.
it is the second.
Oh, that's right, because the first was Thursday.
So it's the 14th, the night of the 14th. We have our Republican. But thank you, because I had forgotten that. So everybody, just take another long drink of coffee. We'll do this again next Tuesday, and we will for sure have a meeting.
We were talking off air about but public radio out of Boise was really unhappy with our two U.S. senators because apparently Jim Risch and Mike Crapo played a huge role in convincing the president to pull out of the Paris Climate Accord. Uh, and I think that a lot of people out there in this state probably appreciate that. If you work at public radio, of course, you're not really a typical Idahoan.
That's true.
But I think that it's time to give a little praise to Mr. Crapo and Mr. Risch.
Well, I think uh, um, it's interesting. They are not so much in the forefront as far as the media is concerned. They're quiet behind the scenes workers. They just get things done. And if you want a couple of really solid, well thought out, well spoken voices in Washington, Crapo and Risch would be two of them that you would go looking for. So it's interesting that they would lend their voices to the um, Paris Accord and say it's enough. It's a joke. Let's get it out of here. I keep in mind that this was never a quote enforceable treaty, not on the United States, and
Never approved by the Senate.
and absolutely never even considered for discussion by the Senate. And more importantly, none of the rest of the nations on earth have anywhere near the same kinds of requirements that we have. So the guy who gets hammered is the United States, and everybody else gets a free ride. I mean, I think, when China and India have the same kinds of carbon emission standard requirements that they want to impose on the United States, this thing might be worth considering. Until then, wait a minute. If it's good for me, it's good for you. And if it ain't any good for you, it ain't any good for me. And I think it's interesting that both Crapo and Risch would come out and say, Mr. President, we need to just rescind this Paris Accord and let's get down the road.
And then you came across some angry opinion in the newspaper this morning about all of this.
the 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 guy that wrote this article, wow, he was not very happy with something. Maybe he'd had a bad breakfast, or I don't know what it was. But the thing that's so disgusting, and Bill, it's your article we're talking about here this morning in the Times News. The thing that's so disgusting is that the liberal media just completely refuses to recognize uh, the heartland of America. We are the quote flyover section. They leave the East Coast and fly to the West Coast, or they leave the West Coast and fly. We are just that piece of ground that keeps the two coasts separated, and therefore we can't be much good for anything. And they're just going to try to jam it down on us and tell us what's good for us and what's not, and and we're not supposed to have any say of any kind as to how they treat these issues, and we should be just good little people and shut up and go along, and that's not.
Or die, shoot up some more heroin and die and just get out of the way.
Yeah, just turn it all back into federal land again.
There's a fellow named William McGurn, and he writes for the Wall Street Journal, and I saw this today, and I thought, gosh, he's saying the same thing I am, but he's writing about how the Democrats and the reporters and media, they say that, well, we've got to try to understand Middle America. So he says, the following question conveys the tone. So this reporter is trying to understand Middle America, and he's asking a researcher, he says, what attitude should we be taking toward people who voted for a racist buffoon who is scamming them?
Yeah, right.
This shows you their mindset.
It And it goes back to the same thing that
I'm
we.
right and I'm always right, is what they're saying.
That's right. And besides which, don't you try to change my mind with any facts or with any realities. That's not appropriate. You are the idiot in the room, and you will do exactly what I say. And we're beginning to see more and more of that attitude from the liberals, left, socialist, Democrat side of the agenda. They they have run out of bullets, if you will.
Well, they brought bricks instead in Portland the other day, and
Isn't that ridiculous?
yeah,
Good night. And we get making a big deal out of these horrific events in London, and they are. Let's not downplay that at all. We see the seeds of that kind of stuff right here in the United States, in Portland, Oregon. We could be there in 10 hours driving, if I'm driving.
12 for me. We've got a short break. We've got more coming up with Steve Millington, the chairman of the Twin Falls County Republican Party, on News Radio 1310 KLIX, newsradio1310.com, and you're listening to Top Story with Bill Colley. Steve Millington in studio with us this morning on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. And a telephone number if you'd like to reach us this morning. We're at 736-0300, 736-0300. Steve is the chairman of the Twin Falls County Republican Party. Bill Colley with you on Top Story as well. And my email address is bill.colley@townsquaremedia.com, bill.colley@townsquaremedia.com. You had a number of other things I know you wanted to address this morning, too, as well.
There's one it's kind of off the radar. Sometimes President Trump drives me crazy, as he does a lot of people, I'm sure. But this one, I think he just stuck his foot in his mouth. Britain is going to have an election. I think it's Thursday of this week. Seems to me they said it was June 8th. I cannot.
Thursday, yeah.
Does that sound right? Okay. So we have Theresa May, and she's running on the conservative ticket, and we have a guy named Jeremy Corbyn, and he's running on the Labour Party.
Which means socialist.
Socialist. It's the Socialist Party. One of the things the terrorists in Great Britain would really like to see Corbyn win the election. He is a socialist. He is acknowledged that he's soft on crime and soft on immigration. By soft, I mean he has no position on them. Open immigration is fine, and a crime of any kind is, oh dear, we must have screwed up their childhood somewhere, and that's why they're doing what they're doing. and so ISIS, the terrorist population, would really like to see Corbyn win, because they know that Theresa May is going to be much more demanding and firm, conservative on immigration and on crime. And for some reason, and it kind of escapes me, I'm just not sure exactly how it works, somehow they're turning Trump's comments into anti-Theresa May and pro-Jeremy Corbyn. And I have read through some of the stuff 2 or 3 times, and I'm having a tough time. I've got a disconnect. I can't connect the dots on that particular one.
I don't think she's done anything to defend Trump, and I think that look, Barack Obama told them how they should vote on Brexit, and media said, well, we've got to do that because Brexit's terrible because we know better. And Mr. Trump calls out the mayor of London, who refused to call these people. Do you know that the mayor of London, 2 days before the attack, said the greatest threat to London was climate change?
Yeah.
2 days later, you've got another terrorist attack, and he's talking about the fact that he thinks the temperature is going to be a degree warmer in 100 years, and that's a big threat. At some point,
and this afternoon, somebody's going to kill another dozen of our population. Sure, right. That makes sense to me.
But the media somehow is. But the problem is Theresa May hasn't done anything really to defend Donald Trump, especially after he said that they should be paying their fair share of NATO, which they don't do.
That's exactly right. That the only person who pays their fair share of NATO is the United States, and we pay our fair share and most of everybody else's fair share. So that's interesting. And I think Theresa May is being a little cautious. Maybe she's playing the political game here Trump is not wildly popular in Great Britain, and so there's a certain let's stand back from him a little bit, and because that's not going to hurt us any at all.
Well, if she was more like Margaret Thatcher,
Oh boy,
she wouldn't have to worry about
nope.
any influence from Donald Trump coming one way or another.
And it's interesting you would mention Thatcher. Where have all the leaders gone? We had a Margaret Thatcher, and she was just um, very firm and very strong and very opinionated, and did a fine job of leading Great Britain for that 6 or 10 years that she was in power there. And that's critical. We have to have that. But Theresa May she wasn't cut off the same bolt of cloth.
That's obvious.
Oh man.
We have a caller with us, and caller, you're up next. You're on the air with Steve Millington on KLIX.
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for taking my call.
Good morning.
You just kind of took what I was going to say about Margaret Thatcher.
Whoa.
See, that is the kind of woman that the United States could use for a president. That's a world leader that did more in her years in office over there than any of them will ever do. But the thing is, the people over there, May, she does not run this country. We need to worry about our country, and I think we got Trump in there now, who is going to do what's right for the country. Like I said on your show last week, Bill, it's a strange thing to have a president say, I'm going to get rid of the Paris Accord if I'm voted in as president. And he did it. I'm going to build a wall if you vote me in, and he's trying to do it. He wants to do the taxes. See, that's where, and you talk about us being flown over as the middle of the country. You're exactly right. We're the real United States. If you look at the electoral map, just take a close look. Everything on the West Coast and everything on the East Coast basically is the same color, and everywhere in between is us.
That's right.
And that is so telling. Except in Idaho, we had Blaine County, which is an embarrassment, and we had the one up north. But you always got to have that in the family. Not all the kids are going to be perfect, but all you can do is keep working on them. But no, I think that with how our country's being governed right now is fine by me. Is he going to do everything perfect? Does everybody expect that man or any other man or woman to say every word perfect? If you do, you're a fool. They're human. And I don't want somebody to get up there like Obama or Hillary or Bill Clinton and repeat a speech when they're supposed to be speaking off the cuff. I like listening to a man or a woman that is honest. I like listening to a man and woman that I know have the best in mind for me and my family. And it just amazes me how the political scene, or not political, but the news, they just keep hammering on him because, well, he said something not quite right, or he did this.
It is right, though, and I want to thank you for the call, but it is right, I think, to a lot of us, and that's what they don't seem to understand.
And to his point, we are in the flyover section of this country. We agree. We may not agree with every single word, but in principle, we agree with those things that he's doing. And he may have articulated it just a little awkward or maybe used the wrong word, but we're okay with that. We use the wrong words on occasion, and we say to ourselves, I could have said that better. But on the East Coast and the West Coast, they only have one agenda, and that is their brand of progressive socialism is under immense attack by Donald Trump. And so they have got to fight tooth and nail to destroy Trump in order to preserve their ideologies.
We have another caller with us. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air. Steve Millington is our guest. Go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning, Bill.
Good morning. You're on the air.
My question is, where do our two senators stand on health care, on the new health care bill? What we're hearing is they're waffling. The whole Senate is just kind of falling apart on health care, and it's not going to happen. Or they're going to just flip it and be another Obamacare without really changing anything and more subsidies being paid out. and the taxpayer is just paying more money in healthcare for their families and everything. I'm in healthcare, and it has destroyed our industry with Obamacare, and we're really fed up as people in Idaho with the healthcare. And what are our senators doing?
Steve, you may know better than I would.
I wish I had a absolute perfect answer for you on that. I know that Senator Crapo is of the opinion that Obamacare is a disaster and it's got to be changed. I think he is working with guys like Mitch McConnell. McConnell said it's going to be a tough sell to get anything done with a health care bill this year. And I say to myself, that's because you have no backbone. If you had a half an ounce of
No
guts,
chin and no backbone in Mitch McConnell's case.
yeah, if you had a half an ounce of backbone, the thing would be resolved. I do not have a good feel for where Jim Risch stands. I have not questioned him or been with him. Crapo was in Twin Falls one day last week. I think it was Thursday. It was Thursday at the National Guard Armory, and they were talking about veterans and benefits. As part of that conversation, the reference was made to healthcare in general, and Senator Crapo made the statement, "We are going to get that thing changed." So I think his position is still Obamacare is a disaster. It's killing us, and we have to get it under control.
This is the Hill from this week. States scramble to prevent Obamacare exodus. And that's just from Obamacare. That's nothing that the Republicans have done in this situation.
That's right.
We have another caller. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air with Steve Millington and Bill Colley on KLIX.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, Steve and Bill, I don't know if you agree with me on this. Any other way, it doesn't matter. But the people, the other day I heard this previous caller say, we're winning. What? All this division among us is doing no good. I don't care if you're liberal, conservative.
Well, stop throwing bricks at people at a Trump rally then in Portland, Oregon.
No, hey, they had free expression and they exercised it.
Oh, throwing a brick is free expression. That's well said.
You know, part of what we have to do is the angst, the anger, and the mere thought of losing their footing. And when I say they, I'm talking about the socialist progressives over here who are cannot stand the idea of individual rights and individual responsibilities. They are they're in the last gasps of their life, because if the conservative can regain their footing and their voice, then the liberals, the socialists, and we have to paint the Democrats with the same brush because they all seem to be gravitating to that point. They are going to suffer some really significant difficulties, and it's going to be sooner rather than later.
We got about 5 minutes to go. There was an article you and I were both reviewing from Real Clear Politics where a Canadian college professor said that what we're dealing with, he said conservatives better take a stand and better speak up, because he said the old Marxists realized when they couldn't divide people on money and class warfare, have switched to identity politics, and every time we apologize, we only make them think they're winning.
And by identity politics, he uses the term, excuse me, okay, if it's not the poor versus the rich, then it is the oppressed versus the oppressor. And so we now have this and you can, if you get past the headline and read the body of the article, you can see what they're really trying to do is find somebody who has been aggrieved, the oppressed people, those who have been maligned some way in our society, and therefore they are the victims, and you people have caused this great thing to no. If we apologize as conservatives, we are simply giving them ammunition to fight back, and we can't do that. Never mind apologizing. We have, and he mentions in this article that as a college professor for the last, I think he said 30 years, I'm not sure on that, he tries to teach the concept of individual responsibilities. And as I read that, in fact, I read that particular paragraph twice.
Ben Sass tried to do the same too. He's written a book about how difficult it is.
Because it's not, why should I take individual responsibility when you, I mean, I'm talking some segment of society, that the welfare section of government, you are just going to provide everything for me. I don't have to be responsible for anything. You're going to do it for me. You're going to give me this. You're going to provide this. You're going to provide that. So why do I have to do anything? I read an article, maybe a month ago, and it was entitled, What Happens to Man If He Doesn't Work? And the crux of the article, the principal point in the essay was that with so much automation taking place, man no longer is required to, quote, work, unquote. And the crux of the article was work is one of those things that adds being and substance and validity to our life. And I would add to that responsibility. And this is one of the key points in this essay, is that without the associated responsibilities that we take as human beings in this world, in this life, we become nothing. And the postmodernists, the progressives, the liberals, that would like to destroy any approach to individual responsibilities. And if they can do that, then we become nothings as humans, and they win. And those of us who believe in the value of human life and personal responsibility and the greatness of this country and the wonderful opportunities that we have living in this world, which is by far the greatest, and in this country, which is by far the greatest of any other on this world, this planet.
We've got about a minute left. We've got speaking of personal, there is an addition to the Millington clan.
Yes, there is.
This morning.
We have a new grandchild that was born this morning at 7:45, and it's a little baby boy in Boise. And I'm scrolling down through my text messages this morning. He's 6 pounds 5 ounces. He's 19 3/4 inches long, and we do not have a name for him yet. That's not important.
Go with Clarence. It fits the governor. Well, he doesn't like it, so he uses Butch. But you can go with something like that.
The delightful thing is the baby's doing well, mom's doing well. Natalie and I are going to get the siblings for the weekend, and mom will be in the hospital probably till sometime on Thursday, and we'll go pick up the rest of the family and bring them down here while she goes home and adjusts to life with
it's going to be a busy weekend on the farm.
Yep, just and unreal. And it's one of the great blessings of life is your family. And this is grandchild number 25 for us, and we are absolutely delighted. And I've got the name for him. His name should be Justin O. Millington. Justin Nother Millington. that one didn't go very far.
Well, thank you for coming by. We'll see you again soon.
You betcha. Next week.
Steve Millington is the chairman of the Twin Falls County Republican Party. Bill Colley with you, saying one more hour of Top Story is just ahead, following the news from Fox at 9 o'clock.